Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Othello and today we get to hear from the first senator in Act 1, Scene 3. I know you've been dying to hear from the first senator because what he has to say is so important today. It's gonna blow your mind. Anyway, sorry, sarcasm over. So what's going on in this play? Iago is Othello's ancient, which is sort of like an advisor type person, but he wanted to be his lieutenant, but that job went to Cassio, so Iago hates Othello for giving Cassio the job that he wanted and now wants to undo him. So he helped Roderigo wake Brabantio up because Othello has married Brabantio's daughter Desdemona. She ran off with Othello sort of in the middle of the night. So they woke up Brabantio and were like, check and see if your daughter's in her bed, and Brabantio's like, no, she's not there. Meanwhile, Iago snuck away so he could be with Othello when the lynch mob shows up because he can't be part of the lynch mob. He still has to pretend that he likes Othello and is on Othello's side. So he gives, in Act 1, Scene 2, he gives Othello a little bit of a heads up that Brabantio is coming, and he's very angry that Othello has married his daughter, and Othello is like, you know, I'm such a good soldier that I could probably do anything that I want, and if it wasn't for the fact that I was in love with Desdemona, I would unleash the fury of 1,000 suns on these idiots that surround me, kind of a thing. And then Cassio shows up and says that the Duke of Venice needs Othello to go lead a war that's happening in Cyprus. Cyprus is about to be attacked by the Turkish people. So Othello needs to go to Cyprus to fight that war. And he starts to go, but then Brabantio shows up and is like, you stole my daughter and how dare you, and all that sort of thing. And Othello, and I arrest you. And Othello's like, okay, but if you arrest me, who's gonna go fight the Duke's war that the Duke wants me to go fight like yesterday? So you want to take that up with him? And Brabantio's like, yes, we will go take it up with the Duke because this is an important matter and it needs to be brought to him right away. And that was the end of Act 1, Scene 2. So now they are all trooping along to the Duke of Venice, and in Act 1, Scene 3, we start out meeting the Duke of Venice, and he's talking to some of his fellow senators because they are getting various reports about this war that's going on. They're getting some reports that it's like 80 ships that are coming to attack Cyprus, some are saying it's 120, some are saying it's 200, like they're getting all these varying reports, and then somebody else comes in and says that the Turkish fleet is actually aiming for Rhodes, not for Cyprus, and they're like, wait, what? This makes no sense. And then another, then the Duke turns to the senators and he's like, so like, what do you make of all of this? And the first senator says, this cannot be by no assay of reason. 'Tis a pageant to keep us in false gaze when we consider the importancy of Cyprus to the Turk, and let ourselves again but understand that as it more concerns the Turk than Rhodes, so may he with more facile question bear it, for that it stands not in such warlike brace, but altogether lacks the abilities that Rhodes is dressed in. If we make thought of this, we must not think the Turk is so unskillful to leave that latest which concerns him first, neglecting an attempt of ease and gain to wake and wager a danger profitless. So what he's saying is that he thinks that these reports that the Turkish army is going to attack Rhodes are false because Rhodes is not as fortified as Cyprus is. So yes, it would be an easy target, but they don't want to think that the Turkish army is so dumb to go for an easy target, allowing the other side to like amass even greater forces in Cyprus and be ready to like knock him down when he comes. So he's like, it can't be real. He's not actually going for Rhodes. And the other senators and the Duke are like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. He has to be going for Cyprus. That's the only logical place that he would be going to attack is Cyprus. And then another messenger comes in and is like, oh, the fleet that was headed for Rhodes actually hooked up with this other fleet and they're all going to Cyprus. And they're like, okay, that's settled. Cyprus is the actual target, so that's where we need to send our forces so that we're ready and all of that sort of thing. And then Brabantio and Othello and crew I'll enter, and we'll get into what happens then tomorrow. See you then.